Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sports Center of Las Vegas, Nevada, where the opening round in the Showbox Super Middleweight Tournament continues. And tonight it's brought to you by Gary Shaw Productions in association with Round One Entertainment, PFTC, and Showtime. Tonight's bouts are sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The chairman is Skip Avancino Jr. The executive director is Keith Kaiser. Also sanctioned by the IBO, Supervisor Frank Brunette. The three judges scoring this bout will be Patricia Morse-Jarman, Al Lefkowitz, and C.J. Ross, and your referee in charge of the action is Kenny Bayless. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this bout is scheduled for 10 rounds in the super middleweight division. Introducing first, he'll be fighting out of the blue corner. He entered the ring wearing the solid black trunks and he weighed in at 168 pounds. His professional record stands at 14 victories with only 1 defeat. All 14 wins by knockout. From Cartagena, Colombia, ladies and gentlemen, here is the Colombian super middleweight champion, Jose Luis La Pantera Herrera. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner. He comes into the ring wearing the gray trunks, and he weighed in at 167.5 pounds. He too has a fine professional record, 15 victories, only 1 defeat and 1 draw, with all 15 of his victories by knockout. From Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Memphis, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen, here is Lafarrell Memphis Fairway Bunting.
Is he okay, guy? Samson? He just looks sleazy. He's always been nice to me. That's the same way I feel, too. That's exactly how I feel, too. There's never things I know about, but he just looks sleazy, doesn't he? You know the people who look that sleazy are sleazy.
What I say, you must obey. Good luck. Touch gloves. Buena suerte.
Referee Kenny Bayless, our third man in. The fighters in the silver. That's Lafarrell Bunting, fought 3 weeks ago, first round KO. He has dieted down, ran, and shadow boxed his way, but hasn't sparred in over a month. This first round could be telling, Steve.
Well, both guys with a lot of early knockouts. What is the attitude? That's what I want to see. Right now, it looks like Bunting's pretty happy to box a little bit.
Jose Luis Herrera, first time in the United States, and he is motivated, saying that he feels like he was brought here as an opponent, and there's no way that he's that. In fact, he said winning the tournament's a done deal. So confidence sky high by the man in black, and that power jab there is something, when he's got it going in his game, he is a doubly effective fighter. So let's see if he'll fire that jab and not just lay it out there. You're right, Steve. Bunting very cautious. Now he's doubling up on the jab. We'll see if he comes forward at all. Good power in both hands. But he is definitely reading and waiting to react. Herrera walking down Bunting a little bit, but most of the action, or inaction, center of the ring. Big hook from Bunting, who again has fought at light middleweight, but says his natural weight, best weight division is this at 168. I should say light heavyweight. Well, Bunting, nice combination there, some taken on the gloves.
Almost equal in terms of experience, these two guys. The big factor, of course, Bunting taking this fight on short notice. How good can his timing be? Well, he did fight July 15, which is actually much more recent than Herrera.
Right, first round KO of a guy who had lost his last 11 fights by first round KO. So he hardly cracked a sweat, and that told us nothing. And again, he hadn't sparred much even going into that fight, and took this fight again on short notice. So critical if he gets past this first round and has 2 months to regroup, and that's a big if. Lafarrell Bunting could be a dangerous proposition in the super middleweight tournament. There's Jose Luis Herrera coming forward now, retreating a little bit and taking those shots on the gloves.
Well, you know, Bunting told us he loves the left uppercut. He's thrown it a couple of times in this first round, hasn't connected. it's a worse punch you can throw from a distance because it throws you off balance and you're not protecting yourself. So he has to be very careful with that left uppercut.
I think Herrera's doing a nice job of not getting careless at all. But I'd like to see more out of that jab from him. He's just probing, looking for openings and seeing how Bunting moves. And now it's Bunting moving forward, short with the right hand. Be interesting to see what happens here after the first and any adjustments as each guy basically read each other in this first.
Look, don't force the right hand. All right. I need you to use your jab and step down the center. All right. And step down the center and turn to the left. All right. Give me a little head movement. Don't leave your left hand down. All right. You got to keep it up real good. Give him a different look. All right. Be patient. He's not bringing.
Toma. Tranquilo. Entonces, José, eso es lo que quiero que haga, ¿viste? Cuéntale. Una, dos, en el tercero.
Use the 1-2.
Suelta la recta derecha tuya. Y con la mano abajo que te va a sorprender con
Both hands up. Use that 1-2.
Se va a estrellar con tu defensa. ¿De acuerdo? ¿Listo, José?
Go to the second here in Las Vegas. Nick Charles with Steve Farhood, our super middleweight elimination tournament and single elimination. There is no fallback here. You're in or you're out based on your performance tonight. There will be tiebreakers.
Somebody will be advancing. Right now, this is it. The issue here, and the reason we're not seeing much punching is the distance. Bunting backed up a little bit most of that first round, and Herrera kind of inched forward, but there's no commitment of movement to try to get either fighter into punching range. You can see it now. Look how far apart they are. I mean,
yeah, nobody's engaging here, and still, again, I think just trying to read the moves and maybe find some openings rather than create them. But I would dare say it's not going to continue like this for very long. One thing we should point out, Bunting looks very fresh. He's been past 4 rounds one time in his career, though, Steve. He only went 7. So would it be necessarily in Herrera's interest to drag this guy deep?
Well, of course, Herrera has been past 4 once also. So right now, I think they can box 173 rounds at this pace.
Now we see Bunting missing with the right, but fundamentally both guys look pretty solid. It's very hard to tell. We haven't seen a lot of flush blows. Herrera hung himself out a little bit there, missing with that opening right to the body. But both extremely cautious here. Kenny Bayless rules that correctly a slip.
Nick, Bunting, you can see he's got long arms, and you know that his punches came from good, his knockouts came from good leverage. What upsets me about him, though, and watching him so far, is that Herrera's inching forward. He's really inching into Bunting's range. Bunting's not doing anything about it.
Right, so Herrera able to walk in a little bit. I don't know why Bunting is hesitating. He didn't there, opened up there with a nice hybrid left hook uppercut. Now with that uppercut from outside, and Herrera tries to jump on him on the way in and time his rush.
Well, the fans like that because we got a little action, but that was a very amateurish move by Bunting, leading with the right uppercut.
Absolutely.
From the orthodox stance.
Kenny Bayless with a stern warning to watch the clash of heads. Boy, Bunting just fanned with that right and really starting to look more and more. He's got a nice straight right that really hasn't landed, but really looking with that left hook, isn't he? Left hook or uppercut. Bunting trying to close the distance now, and we see Herrera backing up. He's the man in black. Now the distance changes just a little bit as Lafarrell Bunting in the silver and red is trying to close distance a little bit.
I get the impression these guys would be very happy to stay in their corners and stand there during the,
well, we would
during the rounds. No, Herrera's got to turn it up.
We'll take away the stools if necessary. But Herrera, yeah, we've seen 3-4 jabs maybe from him. So it hasn't been an instrument that's done anything offensively for him. We complete 2 here in Las Vegas.
Take a deep breath. Wait, mouthpiece. Look, don't reach for him. Take a deep breath, all right? That's why you're missing with your right hand. You're a little bit too far away, okay? When you know you want to throw that 1-2 or that hook right hand lead, you got to make sure you step right down the center, okay? Utilize your jab, keep giving him a look. Just don't force any punches, all right? And watch that old slow jab he's doing.
action, so to speak, from round 2. Good result for Bunting in that he sort of landed a punch, but for the wrong reason, throwing that right hand uppercut as a lead punch. And Herrera got a couple of soft counters in there as well. So that was about it. You have to score that second round based on what we saw there.
Okay, utilize the jab, baby. Touching with it. Step when you touching and you want to throw it right hand, just step down the center. All right? Deep breath.
So that means you gave Bunting the second. Who'd you give the opening?
I gave it to Herrera, but Nick, you want to argue with me, I won't argue with you.
Well, it wasn't the rate of attrition there. Maybe whoever did a little bit more and didn't hurt themselves looked terrible in the eyes of the judges. Both guys fundamentally looked like they could fight. Neither guy's ever taken a beating in the ring. Bunting was TKO'd in 2, down twice. So just a throw-out performance, he says. And that was about 3 years ago. Since then, nothing but wins. Herrera's only lost a result of cuts. Herrera moving in, but not really pumping that jab. All those shots taken on the gloves by Herrera. And again, Danny Smith telling Bunting to get in closer and move in behind the jab to close that distance and be in range to fire the right hand, and that's the way he missed again. He's still way off. Natural southpaw is Bunting, so will he switch up a little bit?
You think, Nick, there's a chance these two guys saw each other's records and knockout records and are tentative because of that reason?
Very good point. There we see Bunting trying to put it in gear, doubling up and stepping up really big time and coming in with an overhand right.
But it doesn't look like anybody else.
Good left hook as
doing anything.
Herrera walked in again and then got tagged on the way in that time. And here comes Bunting. He thinks he's got Herrera in a little bit of trouble. He tried to climb all over him.
I think they locked feet, and that's why Herrera fell off balance.
Now Bunting with his best jab of the night. Herrera in black just marching forward, hands up, but not really coming in behind punches. Little chopping right from Herrera there landed. So each guy fighting in little bits of bursts and continuing to give and take and let the other guy make the play. Here with nothing happening, it's Herrera who seems to want to walk in, as you said, Steve, without doing anything. And Bunting not making him pay for that privilege.
I'll tell you, the only action in this fight has been initiated by Bunting. There hasn't been much of it. Herrera, you see him moving forward, but Bunting's moving back. So for every half step Bunting takes back, Herrera takes a half step forward, and they're still too far apart. Well, there you go. Herrera got a little close there. He had a couple of shots in, and what happens? He didn't stay in close.
But maybe enough to do something and win this third round. And here now an exchange against the ropes, and now they fire and trade some shots. We've seen Herrera in fights. He's not afraid to rumble, Steve, once he gets inside, but he's been awfully cautious about doing it. And not very wise in terms of the kind of aggression because he's walking in rather than punching his way in. Closing out the third here in Vegas.
Ven, siéntate, que está sin aire.
Sit down.
Siéntate. Respira hondo. No, por la boca no. Bien, listo. Ya lo tiene en la mano, Escúchame. Coge aire. Ahora le da agua, profe, todavía no. Coge aire.
Action from round 3. I think this was the most decisive round of the fight. You see Bunting landing a straight right hand. Left eye looks like it was a little swollen already. Herrera really not balanced enough to capitalize on the fact that Bunting is open. And you see Bunting, his hands don't come back up after he punches. He's very hittable. Look how wide open he is coming in there. Chin's up in the air. Herrera didn't take advantage both times.
What?
So both guys still a little bit hesitant to engage.
Very nice.
Maybe trying to get the other guy to react and set up counter opportunities, but here comes Herrera plodding forward again. Not behind a punch, just laying the jab out there. Just laying the left hand, really not even making contact there, trying and following up with the right hand. Now it's Bunting moving backwards and not being able to fight that way off the back leg.
Nick, yesterday Herrera told us that he felt he's been brought into this tournament as an opponent.
As we said, yes.
You know, give the judges reason to think otherwise. He hasn't done it yet, and Bunting is wide open to be hit when he punches. So the opportunities are going to be there for Herrera.
Boy, Steve, just off the get-go, my first impression, if I'm looking, just knowing nothing about a guy, there's a nice right hand from Herrera, but is he going to follow up? And Bunting just inviting him in the corner with nothing there, maybe trying to fire back. There's his counter opportunity. Nice move to spin out and trap Herrera against the ropes. He was laying in the woods a little bit. It looked like Bunting was hurt, but he was just inviting Herrera in, and he responded with a good flurry of his own.
It took 4 rounds. We also saw the first body punches of the fight. Herrera rat-a-tat-attack. Herrera still waiting as if he's intent on counterpunching.
There's the right hand from Bunting. Nice straight right hand down the middle as Danny Smith wanted, but not behind the jab, so Herrera able to pull even straight out and get away from it. Maybe if the jab was coming first, he'd be blinded by what's next coming. Little baby left hook, as we call it, and there's Herrera in a flurry. Doesn't look like he has a lot of punching power.
Too wide with the shot.
And Bunting chooses not to tie him up, just put the action back in the center of the ring as he's able to step out and restart. Bunting's in silver. In the black is Jose Luis Herrera, all his 14 wins by knockout. And same with Bunting, his 15, all by KO.
Something to look for, Nick. Herrera has suffered cuts over his left eye in numerous fights. So far it's fine. But Bunting's looking to land that right hand, and as they're getting close, if their heads collide, that's something to look for.
Good point. Herrera's only loss, a result of being cut around that eye.
Sit down and take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Look. You know he's trying to throw a right hand, man. You know that's what he's trying to do. Look. You're gonna let him run off with these rounds and shit, all right? Utilize the jab. Utilize the jab. Keep turning.
Action from round 4. Certainly Herrera's best round. This is why. Finally, he gets Bunting in a position where Bunting can't escape. No movement there from Bunting. And Herrera landed some good shots and some body punches, which we hadn't seen up to that point at all. Bunting coming back with a little bit of a sloppy hook there, but this was all Herrera. And clearly, simple strategy, Bunting, get off the ropes.
Right there,
Left
Steve.
hook, right uppercut, weave over. Utilize the jab. All
My
right?
question was,
Don't
why
let
did
him get
Herrera
in.
let him escape? He couldn't have been punched out. That was the biggest flurry and the most sustained action we'd seen from Herrera in this fight. And he really let Bunting out and let him spin out and get back in business in the middle of the ring and recover. Herrera just probing with the jab and not looking good doing it. Both guys, I think both corners feel that the other guy is just looking to land the right hand. We've heard Danny Smith tell Lafarrell Bunting that concerning Jose Luis Herrera's offensive strategy. Oh, nice counter left hook, sweeping, but it landed by Bunting. He's looking forward again. Oh, he gets blocked with a right hand off the ropes by Herrera. Herrera gets pummeled with a left to the ribs. And now it's Bunting, target practice. Herrera is wide open, low blow there. Bayless warns him to keep it up, but Herrera's had the fight taken out of him. Chilling uppercut flush to the chin. And Lafarrell Bunting is teeing off. Watch Kenny Bayless. He is ready to step in, and this will be a knockdown. It's
Ropes kept him up.
Ropes held him up.
Kept him up.
Oh, it's Herrera in trouble and Bunting with a lot of time left. And enough of this one, and This one's over explosively. Very cautious from Lafarrell Bunting, and you got to give it to him, Steve. He did create an opening splendidly. Didn't show us much the entire night, but was cautious to read and not waste any kind of energy. And Herrera wondering why it was stopped or what happened. Why didn't I do anything?
Well, 2 points. One, Kenny Bayless, real good call, because Herrera was on one side of the ropes of the corner, and then he got punched into the other side, and the ropes kept him up. That gave Bayless, calling a knockdown there, which was the proper call, gave Bayless a little bit of time to look at the fighter. And when Herrera responded by sort of wobbling, Bayless called the fight. Very good call.
So, 5th round, it's over. Interestingly enough, on 2 of the cards, the fight was even through 4, and Herrera was ahead 39-37 on a 3rd judge's card. But that's why they fight 10, Steve. And as we look again at how Bunting closed it out.
Well, what you see here, Bunting looks bad on 3 of every 5 punches, but he has long arms, he commits to his shots, and when his feet are on the floor, he can really get some good leverage, and that's his pet punch, that left uppercut. You're going to see one more left uppercut that's going to raise Herrera's head straight up, and I think Herrera was caught on, cut on the left eye as well. There it is. There's that one. Now you're going to see Herrera bounce to the other side of the corner, and that's when Bayless will step in. This is a prolonged attack. Bayless could have called it right here. Couple more shots right there. Boom. The ropes keep him up. Bayless, good call. Now that fight could have been stopped right there, but this gave Bayless a little bit more time to look at the injured fighter. The eyes didn't look bad. He was right above us, but watch the legs. When Bayless finishes the count, you're going to see a fighter stumbling. He wants to fight, but those steps are half steps. Here it is again. And the left hook started it all. It was a counter punch, and that's ironic because it was Herrera looking to counter Bunting the whole fight. And you can see that Bunting is sloppy at times, but then once he gets his feet under him, long stance, long punches, full leverage, and he mixed it up well. He went to the body, and then he goes to his pet punch, that left uppercut. Hey, it's easy to land big shots when nothing's coming back, that's for sure.
Well, I was very disappointed in Herrera. I don't think the guy was a complete fighter by any means, Stephen. As we see the finish here, he didn't know what to do when he had Bunting in a position. And here, Bayless wants him to walk to him, and too much hesitation there.
Good call, yeah.
Yes, that Herrera had very little fight in him and was in danger of taking a real beating. So it's over inside of 5, and as Danny Smith told us, the trainer of Bunting, 4 days notice. How about that? How about it, Jake Gutierrez?
My children, my grandmother, my woman, Nicole Brownlee. Everybody in the South holding me down.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Kenny Bayless stops this bout at 1 minute 20 seconds of the 5th round. The winner by TKO victory, Lafarrell, Memphis Fairway Bunting.